The guy that does the Pin Game Journal, this silly little magazine here, said he was going to sue us if we kept calling our magazine Pin Game Gerbil. So now we are Bingorilla. And it's just going to be 2 hours of talking about pinballs and showing pinballs. And in honor of the tourists that keep coming to Vegas, I've decided to dress up today as a tourist. I got a babe on each arm. I got a big roll in my pocket. We got all kinds of tourist jokes, and I'm helped out by members of my rat pack. We got over-enthused Curtis over there, and on camera we have extremely ugly Mike, who would break the camera. And here's the rest of my rat pack. There's Sammy Davis Jr., and there's Frankie, the chairman of the board. There's Shirley MacLaine. And they're all sitting on top of this giant set of dice. And if you're getting this tape, you now owe me $6. That's right, because that's what I need to get from everybody to cover the tape and postage. So if you're getting this tape, send me $6, and all the money will just be used for more tape and more postage. It's like a disease, it keeps growing and growing. And if you send us 20 big bucks, we got a rare limited edition Evel Knievel original old stock t-shirt for you. We'll throw in too. These are super rare. We also have, for 50 bucks, if you cough up a big 5-0, you get the now out of print and very scarce Gary Fowler pinball book. And it's got all kinds of great color pictures and stuff in it. Highly recommended. It's been out of print for 3 or 4 years, and I got a couple hundred copies of this to give out. So anybody that sends in a 50 gets this. Before we get into the pinball stuff, got to put in some plugs. Time to plug the magazines. First off, we got Game Room. Game Room, the guy that originally started it just died, and it was sold to one of Steve Young's helpers, Steve Young of the Pinball Resource in New York, and they're trying to make a go of it. It's a pretty good magazine. Doesn't have enough pinball stuff for my taste. It's got all kinds of stuff like jukeboxes and pop machines, but it's got some good articles, lots of nice pictures. This is currently available for 28 bucks a year, and there's the address. They're now in Keyport, New Jersey. So sign up for this magazine. It's a pretty good one. We're also putting a plug in, even though the guy threatened to sue us if we used his name. We're going to go ahead and put in a plug for this magazine, the Pin Game Journal. It's from Michigan, and the guy that does it, he's a real prick, but he's pretty cool. Lots of pinball articles, lots of in-depth articles, lots of cool pictures you'll never see anywhere else. Nice thick magazine, not a lot of advertising like the Game Room. Game Room's about 90% ads. This has some good media articles in it, and I really recommend this. Good magazine. Current price is $34 a year. That's for 12 big issues. And there's the address there in Farmington Hills, Michigan. So send in and sign up for that. There's also a new pinball publication that just started coming out called the Pinhead Classifieds. Now this is done by this goofy girl in California. There's her ad right there. Pinhead Classified, and she's $33 a year. And you can send it in to the address up there in Newman, California. Mainly ads, comes out once a month. Good magazine, it's kind of goofy, sense of humor kind of thing. And that's pretty much it for the plugs. I think it's time to get into the pinballs. Since this is Bingorilla, we're going to start out with a bingo. On the last tape we did the target roll over here, so this time we're going to do Bally's crosswords. Now this is a pretty weird bingo. Instead of using numbers, you actually use letters, and you got 4 different cards. And the first nickel you put in resets the game and gives you your first card. And then if you want to put in a second nickel, a third nickel, or a fourth nickel, it'll go ahead and get you 4 different cards. Now the whole idea of the game is to spell words here on the playfield. And for any word, you've got to have a vowel. And this one's got A, E, I, O, but no U. So just to make things easy and cheap, we'll start out with an I. And there's a T. Gee, I wonder what I'm trying to spell. And then another one like a C. Now if you look here on the back, you're starting to get almost a few combinations that'll equal words. If you look down here on the 4th card, the word twin, I've got a T and an I. Now if I can get the N and the W, it'll pay me for a 4-letter word. Or if I can get the word twi, T-W-I, or the word win, I'll get a 3-letter word. So what I'm going to do is cheat, and I'm going to get a W Now I have TWI, and it just paid me 2 credits for that. Now if I can get another word anywhere else on any of the other cards, it'll pay me for those. Plus it's got what's called valley holes, which in this one they're called star holes. There are 2 holes up here and up here. If you get that, it doubles the amount of the payout. So now instead of winning 2, it should pay me for a 3rd credit. Sure enough, it brought me up to 3 there. This is a very rare game. They only made 500 of them, and this is the 61st one that came off the assembly line. Only 3 of them I know to exist. Mike Pasak has one in Ohio. There's one up in Oregon, and then there's this one. The art looks like George Malenton art. If you look, that kind of looks like a Malenton babe there. And of course, Don Hooker was the designer of all the bingos in the 50s at Bally. An amazing guy with the work he does. Some of the cool things about this game are this ornate metal casting here that says a Bally product, and all you do is just kind of throw the nickel in, and it kind of scoops the nickel up and funnels it in. I think this is pretty cool. They should do more cool stuff like this. Also, it's got like a space age cabinet. If you look at it, it's got this pedestal, and the whole thing seems to kind of float in space like that. I can imagine George Jetson playing this game. And it's also got this ball release button in case your ball gets stuck. Pretty neat game. I'm going to rate it as a good game as far as bingos go. Oh, we have to explain our new rating system here. Starting now, we're no longer going to rate things 1 through 10. We now have a new rating system. We're either going to call them a good game, a great game, or a bad game. This will help simplify things a little bit. My idea of a great game would be something like a Funhouse from Williams, or maybe a Counterforce by Gottlieb. A good game is 90% of everything that was ever made. They're usually okay, but they don't quite make it into the great category. Bad games, there's quite a few bad games. I would pick Magnetron from Gottlieb, or anything from Chicago Coin. I just don't like those guys. There's nothing to shoot for. Bad rules, and the machines are ugly. But anyhow, that's our new rating system. This is Crosswords. Really a neat game. Now we're going to go down here. We got another bingo down here. This one's called Miss America Deluxe. Now, this one is actually based on Miss America of 1957, and this is the 1898th of, I'm guessing there was about 2,500 of these built. This actually came off the end of the assembly line in May of '79. Pretty neat game. If you look here, the play meter actually goes up to 10,000. You can win 9,999 games. And also, if you look back here on the back glass, Wiley and I were having an argument about who did the art, but that's definitely either Christensen or Paul Ferris art. We were trying to decide which one. Real pretty babes on there. Then you look down on the playfield, and somebody else did the art on the playfield, because they're just kind of ugly babes. Doesn't have the fine detail of line that they do on the back glass. I'm guessing that this is Dick White, the guy that did the Nippet glass, probably did this playfield. Another weird thing about this game, if you look right around here where the holes are beveled, you'll notice that it's not wood, it's a plastic playfield. This started out as one big sheet of plastic, and then they routed the holes in it, and they set these posts in there. Bally experimented around with different materials to build playfields out of. There was actually 2 machines that were produced as pinballs that had this plastic playfield. There was 25 Playboys that were made with it, and there was also Speakeasy, a 2-player, that came out in the same year as this one. This one also has what's called a red letter game. This is one of the neat features of this game. If you look here in this area, when you put in enough nickels, you can light the light red letter game. And if you look at the extra card, you'll see that 1, 2, 3, 4 of the numbers have red stars on them. Now, if you can get any 3 of those 4 stars, you will automatically get a replay, not an amount of credits, but an actual new game based on where the red letter is on the word America. Now if you look up here, you can't see it very well, but that E is red. And the more nickels you put in, the higher the red letter game goes, all the way to the letter A. And that's all based off the red scoring. So if you have this score on red, you get AM red, then E, R, I, C, and A. So that's how the red letter game works. Also, if you look here, you push A, B, C, D, and E buttons to move magic lines. Magic lines is a great feature. If you can ever get a Bally Bingo with magic lines, I recommend it. You also have, on this game we're playing, we have the two rollovers are lit. Basically what I did is, before we started the tape, I dropped about $6 in here to buy a really good game so we could play around a little. Now, if you hit this rollover here when it's lit, instead of pressing buttons before fourth ball, I just advanced it all the way up to fifth ball, which gives us one more ball to make up our mind. So we'll shoot about the first 3 balls, decide where we're going to put things here. And 25 is the winner. Okay, now if you look back here, you'll notice that I've got 3 stars on the second card, so I've automatically been guaranteed my red letter game. And here's the fun part, you can move lines by pressing these buttons and try to get different combinations. It really gets fun later in the game. We need a 1. See, we can cheat because the game is open. Now if you'll look up here on this card, if I can move that 1 on the B line over there, I'll have a winner here and a winner here, or I can move it over to here and I'll have a winner on 17. Since it's always better to try to line stuff up, we have 2 winners. Now 14 or 22 is a winner. We'll go ahead and shoot our last ball, and let's say we hit 14. Okay, now our game is over. We've got 1 winner on the main card, and we've got 3 stars on the extra card. So we press this little button marked R here, which is for register. It'll go through and scan, and it just paid us 8 credits, and that's 3 in a row red pays 8. Now if I would have had 4 in a row red, it would have paid 24 games. But now comes the fun part. Now that we've collected all our normal scores and winnings, all I have to do is hold down this R button, and it'll completely start a new game without me doing anything. It dumps all the balls. It advances. It's going crazy. It's advancing all the features all by itself. It just gave me 600 odds on green, A, B, and C, both the cards, and some pretty good scoring on yellow and white. And since I still have 8 credits, I'm going to go ahead and spend some more. I'm going to blow off the rest of the 8 credits and go ahead and play my game. The reason they did the red letter game was to confuse sheriffs in some locations. If a sheriff came in and said, well, this pinball machine, these credits here represent cash, he'd say, no, 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 those represent points. You can actually win a replay on this game, which is the red letter feature. That makes it legal in some people's minds. It was all just a ruse. These were definitely gambling devices. This particular Miss America came from Chicago at the Bally Factory, right out here to Nevada, where United Coin Company, who's a route operator, took and filled in the holes in the cabinet where the leg bolts were, actually filled them in with Bondo and painted them red. Then they put the whole game up on this funky looking base here and chopped the hole, physically chopped the hole with the saw in the bottom of the cabinet, and you can see in here there's a hopper full of nickels. And what happens is you put your nickel in the chute, it falls down this little ramp into the hopper, and then if you get a really big payout, like we've got 4 games left, you can press a hidden button on the side, and it'll convert those 4 credits into cash, and it'll come down this little chute into a cup where you can pick it up. This was only legal in Nevada, having a machine that actually paid cash. Most bingos were up on legs, and if you had 500 credits, you could trade them in with the bartender, get 500 nickels, but usually only if you knew the bartender. If you were just some guy in off the street, you'd have to play off 500 credits. I really like this bingo. It's, I'd say it's a great bingo. It's got all kinds of great features. You can move the lines around. It's got great art. It's in great condition. I say it's a great game. Ugly Mike, do you have an opinion?
I think it's a good game.
He says good. Okay, well, we're going to go back, do some pinballs for the rest of the tape. We'll take a break, be back in a second. Hey, we're back. We're back in the farther back part of the shed. Time again to remind you deadbeats out there, $6 is all it takes. If you send more than $6, I'm not going to keep the money. I'm just going to go ahead and send out more tapes to people who didn't ask for them and hope they send the $6. Kind of like cool stuff we're giving away. We got the Evel Knievel t-shirts for $20, and at $50 you get this super cool book, which is now out of print. Originally $29.95 book. Lots of color pictures. Anyhow, next thing we got to talk about is game numbers. You might have noticed when I hold up these little sheets that each game has something called a game number. This is something that the factories put on everything. The day they started a project, they'd give it a number. Whether the game actually made it out of the factory, it was actually built, it didn't matter. Everything had a number. Many projects were actually canceled. And also, since they were assigned a sequential number based on when they were started, some games like Hyperball got pushed ahead because they thought it was a really great game and they had to build a lot of them really fast. Other games like Twin Win, the Bally game with the spinning disc, was held up for a year and a half. If you get all the model numbers and put them in order, the order is definitely different than the chronological way the games were built. If you look on every scorecard, if you look down here in the corner, right here, on every Bally game, every Gottlieb game and every Williams game, you'll see a little number down here in the corner. That's the game number. Bally numbers ran all the way back to 1934 through the end of the Bally era in 1984. Williams numbers and Gottlieb numbers started in 1945, and unfortunately now Gottlieb is out of business. What would have been their last game, Brooks and Dunn, I think was 763 was the ending number for them. But anyhow, if you're interested in a complete list of model numbers, I've got them for Bally, I've got them for Williams, and I've got them for Gottlieb, including all the projects that they never built. When you send in your $6, drop a note that you want, whichever particular list, and I'll send them along. The Williams numbers were the hard one, but we have a spy in the Williams factory now who sent me along all that stuff, and we're working on getting more goodies out of our spy in the Williams factory. Another good thing to use the model numbers for, one of my favorite tricks is to go to a pinball show and buy a box of plastics that are sitting, just in a bin for sale for like $5 for a box of plastics, because nobody can figure out what game they go on. Right there in the plastic is a number. That number you can look up on the list, and you wouldn't know looking at this. This came off an obscure Williams game called Warlock. But once you have the list, you can look this up and say, aha, I've got a Warlock plastic, and sort it so you can actually use it at some point. Again, if you're interested in those lists, drop me a note. I'll send it along to you. Next off, we got another plug. This one's for board repair. A lot of people are kind of skitterish about getting into the whole circuit board style games, the newer digital games, because they're afraid they can't fix the circuit boards. Well, here's a guy in California, does good work. You can see his prices are reasonable. Can't really read his address there. So there's his phone number and his address. His name is Tony. He calls himself Silver Balls. And he's got real fast turnaround. He can repair a Bally CPU board for $45 plus parts. So I recommend him. He does good work. He's fast. Time to get back into the pinballs. This is what everybody calls a wedge head. And the reason they call it wedge heads is because the shape of the head is shaped like a wedge. All the wedge heads were Gottlieb single players. The cool thing about single players is that you can build towards a special on the last ball or the second to the last ball. On a multiplayer game, every ball had to reset all the features. Now, this particular game here is called Flying Carpet from March of '72. It's the 3962nd of 3170 built. If that seems a little odd there, that's because the factory claimed that they built 3100, but serial numbers indicate quite different. That's another good reason to keep shagging all these numbers off things, is that you can figure out when the factory is lying to you. Gordon Morrison art, of course, and Ed Krinsky design. Here's the original brochure here. Fascinating name spelling feature. And if you look at the flyer, you can see that the cabinet was originally more of a purple and less of a pink. But for some reason, the pink paint, or the purple paint that Gottlieb used, always seems to turn pink the minute it gets any sun on it.
Punchy the Clown!
Yeah, we know you're Punchy the Clown. If you'll look, this one looks kind of pink. They've all faded a little. And it only seems to be the purple paint that fades. The reds and the blues don't fade at all. Real pretty game. Lots of colorful stuff going on in the back glass. Got a big genie. Got a scantily clad harem girl. I like the game because it's got the bottom on it. Reminds me a lot of one of my favorite games from my youth, Central Park. If you get the ball and it's heading towards the side, all you have to do is give it a nudge off one of these posts, and the ball will come bouncing back out, and you're back in play. There's a lot of wrist action shaking going on with the playfield like this. The whole object of the game is to spell flying carpet by hitting all these rollovers. And if you hit the P and the A, you light the two bumpers for 100 points each. Now, when you only need 1,000 points per ball, a 100-point bumper is worth a lot. Plus, if you get it up in this nest of bumpers, you get a lot of points, and you get all these letters up at the top. So that's a real neat shot once you get the bumpers lit. My complaint about the game is that there's no direct shots like a drop target. Everything seems to bounce off something else. You can pick up the A and the P on one shot by going boom, boom, and you can get it up to the top by hitting it off here and then up into the top. I like it. It's a good game, but it's not a great game, I'd have to say. It's also the first game I remember playing as a kid that had the awful plastic flipper buttons. I hate the plastic flipper buttons. I like the feel of the metal ones better. And if you look on the front here, you can see that I've taken the original dime 3 for a quarter shoot off and put in a pair of quarter shoots and a dollar shoot. Eventually I want to open up the world's biggest pinball arcade, and hopefully by then the government will give us a dollar coin. So you get 1 play for a quarter, 6 plays for $1. Really nice game. I like it. I'd say it was a good game, but not a great game. What do you think, Ugly Mike?
I agree. It's close to great, but not there.
Not quite there yet. This is also a kind of a rare specimen because if you look, there's hardly any flaking on the back glass. For some reason, all the Gottlieb games from the 70s, the red paint likes to flake off the glass.
An excellent game to have in your garage.
Yes, Ugly Mike had this game in his garage for a while. If you look, there's only a little bit of flaking right there on the carpet. I like it. It's a good game. Next one up we got to show you is another wedge head. This one is from July of '76. This is a little newer. It's a classic game. Everybody seems to fondly remember this game. This one's called Buccaneer. It was also built for New York and Wisconsin as Ship Ahoy. Again, it's Gordon Morrison art, and Ed Krinsky did the playfield design. Here's the original brochure for it. As you can see, Buccaneer. And you'll notice for the first time they have the stainless steel door, which was bigger, and the cabinet is actually deeper. I think that was first in Spirit of '76. This would be the second game they used that on. And here's the brochure for the Add-A-Ball version, Ship Ahoy. That was for New York and Wisconsin. I don't think they built any of them to send to Italy. For some reason, they don't have an Italian version of this. If you look at the back glass, it's pretty cool. You got lots of blue background, and then you got some green water, and you got some red pirates. And Charlotte and I were talking about these boots here the other day, and we figured out the reason why they have those boots all tucked down like that is she said that that was for swashbucklers. When they decided they were going to get in a fight, they could take that leather part of their boot and kind of roll it up their leg so that if somebody decided to stab them in the leg, it would like deflect it. But great artwork. I like it a lot. I got the Jolly Roger up there. Down here on the playfield, it's definitely a symmetrical game. If you look at it, the left side is the exact same as the right side. Very pretty art again on the playfield. You got this ship's wheel in the middle. And if you'll notice, there's 11 different numbers There's 10 on the outside of the wheel and the mysterious number 1 in the middle. Number 1 can only be had from the center lane up here. That's the hardest shot of the whole game, is getting the 1. Once you get the 1, the red bumper lights for 1,000 points, which again is some pretty big points. Every other number on the wheel can be hit with this feature called spin and spot. You spin this flag around and it'll stop at a number and automatically give you that number. Now, since this is on 3-ball play, yeah, we know you're Punchy the Clown. Since this is on 3-ball play, some of the numbers, like the 2 and the 3, are tied together by the machine. So if you hit the 2, it gives you the 3, and if you hit the 3, it gives you the 2. Now, the idea of this game is just keep shooting the ball up the middle, and you're doing that spinning spot until you get all the numbers knocked out. And once you get all the numbers knocked out, you light the special. Now, this is what makes wedge heads great, is the special. If you can get it up in this crevice, it's kind of a small crevice, you win a free game. And there's no limit to the amount of free games. You can hit it 4 or 5 times, win all kinds of free games. That's what's great about wedge heads. On a multiplayer, that would reset after every ball. One of my complaints about the game is the fact that the sides here were originally way too wide. If you look here, I took one of the Gottlieb Siamese posts they used on games like Sinbad. They're actually a post and a half wide, and I put it so that it kind of blocks up that outline. So a lot of times when it heads down the side, it'll hit that rubber cushion and go down there where you can flip it again. That way you can make the game a little more liberal without having to drill new holes in your playfield, which is sacrilege. Good game. Again, I would have to rate it as good, but not great. The only shot on the game really is up the middle. You can't really aim for a drop target like you could on a drop target game. So I'm going to say it's a good game, but not a great game. What do you think, Ugly Mike?
Agreed.
Curtis, do you have an opinion?
I'd agree too.
Yeah, Curtis?
Not great.
Curtis is overly enthused, and he says it's not great. Okay, what else we got coming up?
Punchy the Clown.
Punchy the Clown. Now, this is Alvin G's Punchy the Clown from 1993. You may remember a couple years ago there was a factory called Alvin G. Alvin G, of course, stands for Alvin Gottlieb. Originally, they were going to call it Alvin Gottlieb and Company, but the Gottlieb Company decided they were going to sue them, so they had to change it to Alvin G. They made about 4 or 5 pinballs. One of them was this little mini pinball called Punchy the Clown. If you look at the cabinet here on the side, you'll see that it's considerably shorter than a regular pinball. It's like a mini-sized pinball, not as deep. And also, there's extra holes here in the cabinet. If you want to, you can unbolt these legs and bolt them up here higher on the playfield so that the pinball sits about this high. That's for little kids. This was supposed to go in Chuck E. Cheese type locations where you have a bunch of little kids. Another reason that you can tell that is it's got a ticket spitter on it. And if you look here, it's one of those awful devices that spit out those tickets that the kids love to collect and get stupid, crappy prizes with. I don't agree with the idea of tickets. I think tickets just promotes gambling. I think it's evil. I think people should play for a free game, and that's it. But that's just me. I'm a stick in the mud. These kids nowadays, they want something for nothing. When Alvin G closed up, one of the pinball collector's sons was working there, and on the last day, the employees could buy whatever was left game-wise for $200, $300, or $500. So I actually got this game new in the box for $300 because I had done this other collector some favors. I would say for what it is, it's a good game. It's not a bad game. It's got great sounds.
Hi, kid. I'm Punchy the Clown. Get ready.
It shoots the ball up into play, right up out of the middle here.
Get ready. Roll 5.
It's got some good bumpers. It's got great sounds. It's real goofy. And if you look down here, it says Switch Flipper. Now what this was is apparently they had made this up for the previous game, which was called AG Soccer Ball or AG Football. It actually had a little wire form that went around the flipper, and every time the ball came near the flipper, it would move the wire form, and it would automatically flip the flipper. It was like playing pinball with a robot. apparently they didn't want to spend money to remake this flipper, so they just ended up using the same flippers that said switch flipper on them, even though they weren't switch flippers. Pretty neat game. I don't have any tickets to put in it. I had it in the Polo Towers. We ran a big arcade in the Polo Towers for a while. It did okay with the kids. It's a little too annoying for adults, and I don't like the fact that it's short. I like a longer play field with more stuff to shoot for. But again, it's not a great game. It's just kind of an average, good game. What do you think, Ugly Mike?
Average.
Average.
Maybe even a little below for an adult.
Except for the sound.
Right, kid. I put you the clown. Get
We
ready.
know.
Which are kind of neat. And, yeah, we're going to pick out some more games to go over. We'll be back in a second. Let's turn this off. It's making noise. It's scaring me.
Stop.
Back. We took a little break, charged up the batteries. We're back. As you can see, I'm playing tourist today. I got my roll in my pocket and a babe on each arm, and Curtis was getting a little lustful for this scantily clad babe here. She's hot to go. And we were telling tourist jokes. How many tourists does it take to change a light bulb? 5. 1 to hold the bulb and 4 to drink till the room starts spinning. And what's the difference between a tourist and a terrorist? Tourists got fanny packs. But we got a million tourist jokes. We hate tourists here in Vegas. Next game we're going to do is Royal Guard. This one's from January of '68. It was also built for New York and Wisconsin as Palace Guard. They only made 625 of those. And look at this number here. They made 4,000 elite guards just for Italy. So there must be like whole warehouses full of these games over in Italy. There's the original brochure there. And if you look, it says shifting snap targets. Now, it says all new, but it wasn't really all new because they used the shifting snap target, as they call it, on Gottlieb's Mayfair from 1966. And another weird thing about this game, if you look at the project number, is 224. And this is, again, an example of being able to look at the project number and seeing that they held this game back for over a year. So I think they didn't have much confidence in the game. This is the replay version called Royal Guard. Right next to it we have the Add-A-Ball version called Palace Guard. This one is project number 244. This one is 224, so you can see there was 20 games difference between when they designed the replay one and when they finally got around to the Add-A-Ball one. Now, you're probably looking at this saying, well, this is an Add-A-Ball game. It says Royal Guard, even though it's a Palace Guard. That's because I couldn't get a glass for a Palace Guard, so I just decided to plug in this Royal Guard glass. And if you look up there on top, I built a little ball and play indicator that'll tell you what ball you're in. So it resets and it plays just like an Add-A-Ball. There is no replay unit right there. That's gone. And unfortunately, the little numbers along the bottom didn't light up. Let's start by showing this one. This is the replay version. If you'll look here, it says special when lit. And then if you move real quick over to the Add-A-Ball, you'll see that there is no special on the fan targets. So apparently they felt that that was too easy, that people would win too many balls if they had an extra ball every time you hit that target. Now the object of the game is to hit this snap target. And every time you hit it, it snaps to somewhere else. And you can see, one by one, we're hitting all the features. And when you get all the features lit, then you light this fan target alternately for a special, which is a free game every time. This also happens to be the 5th game I ever owned, this particular one. I've had it since, I have the original receipt for it. I purchased it February 18th, 1973. So remind me again about how old I'm getting. I really like the game. It's not a great game, but I have a fondness in my heart for it because it's one of my first ones, and me and this game have gone through a lot together.
Don't feel bad because when this game came out, this was a high-tech game to me.
This was high-tech. Ugly Mike remembers this. I remember this was always a neat feature, the way that target did snap back and forth.
Well, I grew up playing all the old wood rails where you just kind of played the ball and took your chances.
Yep, pays your nickel, takes your chance.
Yep.
But the neat thing about this game is if you get it up here and you get these targets lit, these are good for 100 points each, which can, again, I like shots where you can bounce it off a bumper, hit a lot of targets, get a lot of points. That's neat. And as you can see on this one, I got, again, quarter dollar shoots. And a problem with the Add-A-Ball one over here is the fact that there is no circuit in there for multiple plays, so I only have quarter on this one. And if anybody out there is ever thinking of putting a game out on location, let me give you a free hint that'll save you a lot of work. There's a new thing going around called electrical inspectors, and they're getting to be really nitpicky. Herb Silvers was telling me down in LA he has to send his games into a UL certified lab and pay $300 per game to get them certified. So basically, if you're going to put a game out, do yourself a favor. First thing you want to do is drill a hole in the side of your cabinet and run a ground wire back to the frame of the transformer. That's what this little wire here is. That way, when the game is all shut up, the trim, the front molding, the door, and the legs are all tied together. You should also replace the original 2-wire cord set with a brand new 3-wire cord set. Then you should put a little note on the machine that says electrical inspector. This machine meets all current UL standards, including grounded trim, grounded transformer, and grounded exterior metal parts. These guys will come into a store and they'll say, this isn't UL approved, pull it out. And they have the power to do this. They get power mad and crazy. But at the same point, if you can show them you've made an effort to run safe equipment and to ground things, they'll usually leave you alone. You say, well, this guy knows the difference between a grounded game and an ungrounded game, so maybe I'll just leave him alone. Maybe I'll go over and pick on that refrigerator over there, see if that refrigerator is grounded. So that's a free hint. If you're going to put a game out on location, it costs you about $5 for a 3-wire cord set. Mayfair sells them. Pinball Resource sells them. You can also get them through catalogs. If you buy 100 of them, they drop to about $3 a piece. Ground your transformer, ground your trim. I like this game. It's a good game. We're gonna pick out another game to inflict upon you, and we'll be back again in another second. And that's the Hound.
Hey, Schmo.
That's the Pinball Puppy. Oof. Picked out some more games. We picked out something new. We got 2 new ones and an old one to do. This is I would have to rate a great game. You want an example of a great game? This is Spring Break, April of 1987. It's 808th of, as far as I can figure out, around 4,000 of them were built. It's a John Trudeau game, a guy I don't usually like as far as being a designer. Calls himself Dr. Flash. He's the guy that did Creature from the Black Lagoon and a whole bunch of really bad Gottlieb games from the 80s. But this is a great game. If you look at it, it's got Spuds McKenzie caps. Now, I remember I was operating games when this one... Let go of my baby! When this one came out, we were operating games, and only the lower production numbers actually had the Spuds caps. They got sued by Budweiser or somebody, and on the later numbers, they had to pull those caps off of there and put something else on. It's also got these really cool Tiger drop targets, which I think are pretty damn groovy. It's got this strange little mini playfield up here where you can come down this ramp and it feeds you right to this flipper, and you just keep pelting those 3 targets up there for big points. It's got 1 ramp, which for me is enough. I think you get more than 1 or 2 ramps, the game gets too cluttered. And if you look at the playfield on this one, it is a new playfield. When I got the game, the playfield was real ratty, so I went ahead and popped the extra $150 for a new playfield. And if you look, it's got a Mylar on it. Usually I don't Mylar my new playfields, but this one, since it's got so much light yellow and kind of like light sandy color, I decided that would show too many hop marks, so I went ahead and Mylar'd it. One of the things that's neat about the game is the sounds. It plays Beach Boys music and the Wipeout. And it starts out on the first ball. It gives you automatically at the start of the game a 2-ball multi-ball. On the second ball, it starts you out on 3-ball multi-ball, which you can see I got going now. And it plays a different song on each ball. And it's kind of goofy. It's got almost topless chick on it. She's like embarrassed that the dog has snatched her top. And then if you get through to the last ball, on the third ball, it gives you a 4-ball multi-ball, which is a neat feature. I always like getting 3 or 4 balls without having to work for it. And then at the end of the game, it's always Surfing Safari. And if you look at the back glass, it's got their photo artwork. There's little Spuds there. He's kind of a cool dog. And I guess the whole theme of the game is that Spuds stole some chick's top. Ah, and here comes the real party animal, Schmo! Ah! I had to put Schmo in the back glass. I think this is a great game. Not because it's got a bunch of great shots, just because it's kind of fun to play. Ugly Mike, how do you rate it?
I rate it as a real good game, not a great, because I'm not much on modern games.
Okay, you're an old fool rocking in the old school.
Pretty much.
But yeah, Curtis, do you have an opinion?
Well, my only opinion is I don't like the photo work on the back glass.
Ah, another purist, another purist. Okay, well, let's go down here to our next one. This one's kind of a weird game. This is a Williams Whirlwind. It's game 574 from January of 90. Although they made this game for a period of 2 or 3 months. This one was actually assembled March 23rd, 1990. It's a Pat Lawler game, and it's got John Husey art. Pat Lawler is, I will have to admit, a real good game designer. Even though I don't like his stuff that much, I certainly made a lot of money with his games. I paid $50 for this machine. Got it down in LA. The reason I got it so cheap, some vandals came along and broke into the game by chopping a hole in the top. Now this is what's left of the original playfield. They took an axe, they chopped through the glass, and then they wanged at the playfield until they got all this sheet metal out of the way. Then they wanged at the playfield until they got enough of the playfield chopped away that they could then get at the cash box. Then they took the axe, they completely chopped everything off the coin door. There was just like metal bits flying all over the place. This was a complete and total wreck. Now, I got a playfield, a new playfield for it. I got this sheet metal from a different game, put it all back together, and if you look at the door, this isn't the original door. This is one of the older Williams stainless steel coin doors. About the only thing I couldn't fix about the game was this little piece here, which was the only place they really scarred the cabinet on it. It is a great game. Oh, and if you put games out on location, think twice about putting these big security bars on there. If this game wouldn't have had this security bar, chances are they just would have popped into the door and stolen the money and not ripped the whole game up. Some people are just unstoppable when it comes into breaking into pinballs. What's involved with changing a playfield like this over, before you think it's an easy job, every single wire, every single cog, every single gizmo on here had to be changed. And if you put a screw in the wrong place, you had to completely take everything back apart again. This is what you call a major bitch. But I had fun with it. You know, you got to do it every now and then. And if there's anybody out there listening who wants a project, if you want to remanufacture parts, every single Whirlwind I see has these rubber gripper wheels in the middle. If somebody wanted to make a fortune, they should reproduce these rubber gripper wheels with the little lightning balls on them. I think there'd be a big market for those. They made almost 7,000 of this game.
Oh, looks like rain.
It's got great speech. It's got great shots. It's a multi-ball game. Why isn't it spitting out balls? And of course it's broken. It doesn't work. But it's also got this big fan up on the top there. If you get some point during the game, that blows air on you. Now, I was talking to Pat Lawler about this game, and he said that they originally weren't going to put that up there because they figured it might blow someone's cigarette ashes back in their face and they'd get like sued or something. What I was thinking would be really neat is to put a squirrel cage, a furnace motor, underneath it and then have a flexible tube come up and actually fit into there. So instead of getting that little bit of wind, you get this huge wind blowing in your face. But I wimped out at the last minute and decided that would be neat. So that's Whirlwind. I think Whirlwind is a great game. As much as I hate to say it, Williams does occasionally make great games. Ugly Mike, how do you rate it?
About the same as the other one, but it's an enjoyable game to play.
Enjoyable game to play. Okay, well, since we're old fools, rocking in the old school, we're going to go way back back into time, back into prehistory. This is a Williams Yanks. This is from April of 1948. It's only the 18th game that Williams designed.
And one of the games that I grew up on.
He actually played this game. Show you how much of an old fool he is. I'm guessing there was about 1,800 of them built. It's definitely George Millenton artwork, and it's a Harry Williams design, and it's the first game that ever featured the man running unit. Now, on the old games, you had to put a nickel in the chute and press it in. That would dump all the balls back. Then you had to push this little lever up. That would feed a ball into the trough, and then you shot it like that. What's neat about this one is you're actually playing baseball. If you look back there in the back, when you hit a single, it actually pops up and a man runs around, and then when the man comes home, he actually scores. You can also score singles and doubles and triples. I'm trying to find where's there's double on here. Okay, now it should score a triple. Yeah, see, it scores a triple, which runs a man to third. Really an ingenious mechanism back there. Unfortunately, the little men are made out of cardboard, and over the years, the cardboard has kind of become brittle and twisted like that. And what's really neat about this game is if you look right over here, here's the original engineering drawing for this game. I don't know if you can see it. Unfortunately, it's in a frame with glass on it. But this is Yanks. It's signed by Harry Williams, 128 of 48. Now, they had an auction at the Pinball Expo last year, and one of the things they auctioned off were 3 original drawings, so I actually bid 200 bucks. I had to have it since I had the game. Something weird about it, though, if you look, I don't know if you can see, up here it says touchdown or 5 touchdowns when lit, and it's also makes reference to a 25-yard gain. So all I can think of is that maybe originally this was designed as some kind of a football game. And this is Harry Williams' actual engineering drawing that they actually went out and made the game off of. Pretty damn neat, if I don't say so myself. And I would say that this is not a great game. I would say it's only a good game, mainly because there's nothing to shoot for. You got these ridiculous backwards impulse flippers. Every time you press the flipper button, it gives a pulse. You can't hold the flipper in. I don't like flippers like that. I like to be able to hold my flipper in. So it's annoying, but that's the way they made it, so that's the way I rebuilt it. I would say it's only a good game. Aesthetically, it's a great game. I like the man running unit. I like the art on it. Ugly Mike, what do you think?
Pretty much agree. It's not much of a game for playing, but it's just a great old machine.
Great old machine. Okay, we're going to go pick some more games out, and we'll be back. It's me again. I'm back, begging for some more money. $6 if you're watching this tape. I shouldn't have to dig into my pocket to send everybody a tape. I'm not getting rich off this, so just send me El $6 to that address there. And if you want any of the lists that I talked about earlier, just make a note. I'll send you those too. No big deal. We decided we're going to take a break from the pinballs and actually do a novelty game. This is historically significant for a couple of reasons. First of all, it's the last Genko game they ever made, Motorama, early 1958. The Ginsberg brothers, who were running Genko, decided that there was no money in the pinball business, so they decided they were going to come out to Las Vegas, being good little mobsters, and they were going to open themselves a hotel. So if you're driving down the strip, if you're a tourist with a babe on each arm and a roll in your pocket, and you see the Riviera Hotel, that was started by the Ginsberg brothers with all the money they made selling pinball machines in the 50s. This is a Steve Kordak game. Now, if you're familiar with designers, he's this really old coot who still works at Williams. He's been designing pinballs since the 30s, and he still works there. Doesn't know when to quit. Motorama's a neat game. I actually found this at a yard sale here in town for 200 bucks. So it does pay to watch the newspaper. Every now and then you see something cool. It's got this neat little flip-top lid, so you can flip it up like this. What you do is you drop a coin in it, and then you're in control of a car. Now, somebody told me this was the same year and the same make car as Christine, the evil possessed car. Then you can go forwards, and you can go backwards, and you can control your steering with this real neat wheel, which even says Genko right in the middle of it. And every time you crash into something, you get points for it. And every amount of points gets you to a different city. I just got all the way to Pittsburgh. Now, if you get to Portland or San Francisco, which is 20 points, you get a free game, which is kind of a neat feature, tying it in with cities. It's got neat little foam cactuses or trees or whatever the hell they are. And here's the original mechanical amusement device from Portland, Oregon, $25, paid in 1958. The original sticker, a little ripped up, but still on the side of the machine. I also happen to have, I didn't even know it, but at the time, I had a spare car assembly. When Knott's Berry Farm closed up their arcade, Herb Silver's got me all the parts that they had, including a bunch of parts in boxes. I didn't even know what they are. But when I saw this car, I said, boy, I've got a spare mechanism. And what's neat about this mechanism, if you look at it, there's actually two motors. One drives the rear wheels here, and that's a normal continuous motor like you would expect on a small slot car. But what's even neater is that the steering is actually accomplished by the second motor, which only gives brief little pulses. And today in slot machines and a lot of industrial uses, they have stepper motors. This was kind of a predecessor to the stepper motor that would turn this wheel, which would feed through these little reduction gears and through this clutch, causing the front wheels to turn. Really an ingenious kind of device. Using the best parts off both cars, I went ahead and made one good car, and it's a neat little game. Genko Motorama. The only thing I've really done to it is convert it from a dime to a quarter, polished up all the trim. And if you look at the cabinet right here, you can see that it's got dovetail joints. As far as I can figure, Genko was the only factory that used, I've never seen these in any other cabinet, dovetail joints like that. They're stronger. Makes me believe that Genko probably made their own cabinets while most of the other companies would farm their cabinet work out. I don't remember playing this game as a kid. Curtis does, and Curtis remembers it as being a great game. So as a novelty, I'm also going to say it's a great game. It's pretty, it's fun to drive, it takes a lot of skill. Most important thing you got to remember is to turn the wheel slowly. If you turn it real fast, you get a bunch of short pulses and the car won't turn. So I think it's a great game. Curtis thinks it's a great game. What do you think, Ugly Mike?
I agree. I remember growing up with it too, and it does take a lot of skill. Had to invest a lot of dimes in it before you figured out what was going on.
Yeah, it's got a learning curve. Learning curves are always good. So what we're going to do is go from a great game to what I consider a bad game. Or this is bordering on the awful. This is what I call an awful game. This is Granny and the Gators from 1983. I didn't even bother to look up the game number on it. It's a combination of a bad video game and a bad pinball. Now, Bally did real well with another game they made just before this called Baby Pac-Man, which was also a video game on top and a pinball on the bottom. But that had the Pac-Man name. You could actually play Pac-Man up here, which is a good game. And the pinball had some things to shoot for. This is just a pathetically bad game. You start up out here. I don't know if you can see it on the tape, but you got a really crude game where you're trying to paddle your way along a river and grab bags of money. The problem is, there's no way to control the guy. It's like frustrating because it's so impossible to do. Then after a while, along comes an alligator and eats you. And they got little savage guys and stuff. Yeah, there's the alligator I'm gonna get at. But then when you finish with that, you come down here and play a really bad pinball machine. Nothing to shoot for. There's no bumpers. I hate games without bumpers. I just think it's a totally bad game. That must be borne out by the fact that they only made about 1,000 of these, and they made 8,000 to 9,000 of the Baby Pac-Man. I just don't like it. I'm sorry. I think it's a bad game. What do you think, Ugly Mike?
Yeah, it wouldn't waste my time.
Wouldn't waste my time.
Good for kids, though.
Yeah, well, kids don't deserve to play cool games. One last thing I want to go into before we shut off again is the fine steel deal that I got from Tiny Crips, the Crypt Keeper in Michigan. This is another good idea, is if you ever get into a big city, look up electronic surplus stores. He found me a whole box full of bumper assemblies for $2 each. They're brand new Wyco bumper assemblies, ready to go into a game for $2. He bought them all, paid $1 a piece. Also included were a bunch of new old stock Bally flipper units from the 60s and 70s with the original frame and the original, now hard to find bearing. and the coil alone is probably worth $5. He got me these for $3 each. Again, a whole box full of them. All the old pinball machines usually end up somewhere, all the parts. They also had some Wyco hole kicker assemblies. If you wanted to design your own game, it'd be a lot easier to go ahead and use already manufactured parts like this. I've also found Squawk and Talk boards. I found a whole box full of Squawk and Talk boards at an electronic surplus store in Hammond, Indiana. Just anytime you see an electronic surplus store, it's time to go junk hunting. So this is our steal deal of the issue, is all the stuff that Tiny Crips got me. Stop! And this is like several weeks later from what you just watched, but thanks to the miracle of Ugly Mike's tape machine, we are with you again. And it's time for what we do on every tape, the Kitchen Sink Award. This is an award we give out for some product which makes your life exceptionally easier, or something that's just plain a good idea. This week we're actually giving it out to a video game product. This is a bag full of capacitors that you can get from Zanin Electronics in Lubbock, Texas. These are real nice guys, and let me tell you what you're going to do if you've got any video games at all, or if you have a Granny and the Gators or a Baby Pac-Man. It has a monitor in it, or any game with a data monitor in it. After a period of years, your capacitors begin to dry out. Your picture becomes funny in shape. You begin to not be able to get your colors. You won't be able to focus. And basically, what your monitor needs is to have every single capacitor on it replaced. And for $7, you can get a bag full of capacitors. Or if you have a Tempest monitor, I don't know if anybody remembers Tempest, but it was a horrible game to keep running. For $14, they make another kit which includes every part that can possibly fail on a Tempest monitor. You put that kit in a Tempest, you put a fan in the back door that blows in on the monitor, and I almost guarantee you're never going to have another problem with your monitors. I know it's not pinball stuff, so don't write me a letter and say that I'm straying from the true path, because our Evil Eye Award this month goes to the wedge-based light bulb. Ooh, I hate these things. When these first came out in the late 70s, they did away with the metal base that was on the bulb and just gave you kind of a bulb you're supposed to wedge into a plastic socket. They said this was going to be more reliable, but what it's proved to be is exactly the opposite, less reliable. In many cases, wherever I can get away with it, I'm taking out these sockets with these evil wedge-shaped bulbs and replacing them with the normal bayonet-based bulbs and sockets that actually work. So that's the end of my bitching, pissing, and moaning for this issue, except for the fact that I got to remind you, you scumbags owe me $6. So send in your dough. If everybody pays, then I'll make another tape. But you've heard that. Time to move on to a pinball now. We're going to go... We're going to have to stop, yeah. Hey, we're back. This is another game we're going to show you. Exhibit Supplies Banjo from 1948. Now this has got George Malenton art. We're not sure who did the design on it.
Hold the sign back up.
There we go. And it's a real pretty game. I can't say it's much fun to play. In fact, if I had to rate it, I would say it was a bad game to play, simply because there's nothing to shoot for. Backglass is quite interesting, though, if for no other reason than it's one of only a couple times I can remember before the 70s where they ever had any Negro faces on a pinball machine. They have them back here dancing and cavorting while you have these women keeping an eye on it. And I think this is a disco. Wasn't there something in New York called Pier 3? Or was that Studio 54?
Studio 54.
Because it looks like a disco and it says show tonight. So apparently they're all coming out of the disco here, and they're celebrating by playing banjos and stuff. And just by accident, you catch just a picture of, this is the actual only known picture of the man. And this is the man, and this is his woman, and these are his slaves, and this is his boat. But it's a pretty weird machine. If you look down here on the playfield, it's got minstrel performers, which are essentially white people in blackface. And it's also pretty weird because instead of having flippers, they're called flippets. And just like the Humpty Dumpty, they're hooked on a mechanism so that all of them on one side work off one button. The whole object of the game is to shoot these numbers out And then when you get all the numbers out, you light these holes for double bonus and special, which can rack up quite a few games. The only problem with this is a damn boring game. So if I had to rate it, I would say it was no fun to play, but great to look at. I traded it with another local collector. I gave him a Gottlieb Atlantis and an even-up trade for this one. The cabinet's in beautiful shape, though. It's got this this neat showboat on the side, and the glass is nearly in perfect condition. And the legs, somebody went and redid the legs, not me. They look just like new. And Exhibit Supply used this weird mechanism that would actually pump your ball up here onto the playfield like that. Kind of neat. But it's just another boring backwards flipper pinball. So we're going to stop for a minute. We'll be right back. We're going to do a game that you're probably never going to see anywhere else. This may be the only one of this game that exists. It's a Gottlieb game called TKO. And first of all, I got to set up what happened. In the late 70s, digital games started taking over from mechanical games, and Gottlieb was the only company that didn't think it would ever catch on. So they continued to build mechanical games long after Bally and Williams decided to stop making them. The only problem was operators weren't buying them, so they had a tendency to pile up in warehouses. The last game they made before this was called Spacewalk, and they only made 75 of them. It was a two-player mechanical version of Countdown, a real famous digital game from Gottlieb. Apparently, from what we can figure out, is they had on the drawing boards a game called TKO. They had ordered the glass be made, and they had ordered the playfield to be made, but then when the parts arrived, they decided that since they only sold 75 of the last one, it wasn't even really worth their time to put it together. So I think what happened is the whole thing got scrapped. Somebody that worked at Gottlieb saved the glass and the piece of wood, and it kicked around from collector to collector till Dennis Dodell, the guy who did the Pinball Trader newsletter back in the early 80s, ended up with the glass and the playfield. He said he would never have any time to build a game around a piece of glass and a piece of wood, so I volunteered to take over the project. Since then, Steve Young in New York came up with a blueprint copy of the schematic. Usually your mechanical games have a schematic that's real small. This was the actual schematic off a blueprint machine, and you can see somebody spilled a drink on it, and parts of the whole schematic are just kind of washed out. I've had to guesstimate what they were and put them back in with a magic marker and a pen. So what I started out with basically was just this sheet of glass, a printed piece of wood, and nothing else. And if you want to look underneath here, this is where it gets weird. This is what it looks like when you hand make a game. You can see that the cable looks like kind of handmade. All the wires are twisted together. The relays don't seem to really fit that well, and it doesn't have that factory-made look. You'll also notice that some relays are obviously off 60s games and have the copper plating, and others are off 70s games and they have the satin chrome plating. It was really kind of a mismatch of parts and things that I had sitting around. I also have to fudge a little. Right in this area here, it got extremely tight. I had to put all the resistors on a circuit board, and anybody that's ever fixed a Williams game will recognize that circuit board as a Williams resistor board. You might also recognize this step unit. This is from a Bally machine. This is actually from a Bally bingo machine. The reason I use that instead of a Gottlieb unit is because the Bally step unit has all these rivets already in place, and the Gottlieb unit they would make specifically for each game and only put a rivet exactly where they needed it. Also, the Bally fingers are reconfigurable. You can take them apart and move them around however you want them. So basically, if you had to design something, the Bally unit is the one to use. The only problem is Bally coils are 48 volts and Gottlieb coils are 24 volts. So then what I had to do is I had to take a Chicago coin coil and a Williams coil, put it on a Bally unit, and put it all together. It was quite an experience. And if you look at the cable, one thing I found out, if you're going to make your own game, it's not a good idea to twist the cable together. Curtis, I probably explained this to you the other day. What happens when you twist wires together and you have them go any distance, what you end up with is a big electromagnet. So by twisting the cable like this, I'm getting inductive resistance from the transformer to the flippers. I'm actually losing a little bit of power because this cabling is actually making its own magnetic field as it goes along. If I had to do it over again, I would start out by buying a spool of white wire and make all the wires white and then just stripe the ends of them with nail polish. I get 6 or 8 different colors of nail polish and stripe the ends of them. The way it turned out was I was just repeating too many times over and over again the same wire colors. This is a very confusing game to fix. I did make a couple obvious stupid mistakes. If you look down here, you'll notice that the cable comes off the playfield on this side and it ends up going over here to the other side. What happened was I was working with the playfield upside down and I glanced at it and I said, oh, that goes on the left side. And left being right when you turn it right side back up. Luckily, I did manage to put enough extra wire that I can actually physically pull it over to the other side. That wasn't too much of a problem. But from now on, I'm only referring instead of left and right to the shooter side and the non-shooter side so that I don't get confused like that anymore. Another problem I had, if you look at the tilt mechanism down here, when I finally got it all together and decided I wanted to put the playfield back down, the first time I put it down, that Valley step mechanism ran wham right into the tilt mechanism. So what I had to do was actually physically mill the end of the rolling ball tilt off and just kind of eliminate it. I also added this bell in here. There wasn't originally a bell called for in the schematic, but I figured you can't have a boxing game without a bell. It looks pretty much the same back in the head. It's all hand wired. This head and this body originally came from a Gottlieb game called Bank Shot that Jan Bradbury down in Phoenix gave me specifically for this project. He found it out on somebody's porch and the cabinet was just about completely wrecked. So the first thing I had to do was do a lot of wood fill work. If you listen to the sound of the wood, this cabinet is about 75% Bondo. I also didn't know what the stenciling on the cabinet looked like, so I just painted it flat vanilla white. I figured it's kind of a test game, a special case. I'll just paint it white. I also did manage to find the correct door sticker. During that period, D. Gottlieb was owned by Columbia Pictures. I actually got the right sticker to go on the door if this game would have been built. Donald Murphy in Chicago came up with original scorecards for TKO. Even though they didn't build the game, apparently they made the cards. About the only thing I couldn't get were these playfield plastics. If you come in real close on one of the plastics, you can see that it's just a piece of Lexan with a color photocopy kind of tacked to it with rubber cement. And if you look at the art and then compare it with the art on the back glass, you can see that it's just a color photocopy of the back glass tacked onto plastic. But what could I do? There were no other games that existed. Then about 6 weeks ago, I got a call from the Pin Game Journal guy in Michigan, and he said that he had talked to somebody on the internet in Argentina that actually had a TKO. And so through the guy in Argentina, I got color photocopies of the correct playfield plastics on plastic like that. So that'll give you an idea of what the playfield plastics were supposed to look like. And in the next couple weeks, I'm going to go through and cut these out, mount them on my plastic here. A couple other problems I ran into. I didn't know what color bumpers were supposed to be there because the schematic just says bumper, bumper, and bumper. So the first time in my life, I had to make a decision, a designer decision, and I decided that red, yellow, and green are pretty colors, so I put red, yellow, and green on. Also, if you'll notice, the ball, when it comes into the playfield, comes over here, and there is no puck. There's no rebound rubber here. Originally, the Bank Shot had a rebound rubber here. You can see that the holes are there. But this game just had a post right there. And sure enough, the post works good. So I just left it with the post, didn't put a rebound puck on it. Since then, I've seen the picture that Jim Schellberg of the Pin Game Journal has, and it does have a puck, and it is mounted way, way over here. You can notice that on the rebound, the metal rebound on this side, I had to leave the original holes here and drill new holes farther down here. This is a very wide top part. Kind of a strange game. Another thing, I was able to figure out that this was supposed to be a white target right here because the schematic referred to it as white target, and I know these two were bullseyes because the schematic referred to these two as bullseye. So I was able to actually get the right parts. I was also able to get the right flipper coils for it because on the schematic it actually said use the A17875, which anybody that's ever worked on a Gottlieb digital game knows is actually a solid state flipper. In order to make the solid state flipper work, I had to put a bridge rectifier in to provide DC power to the flippers and the bumpers. It's mounted on a separate plate here to keep it cool, and it uses a double run of wires so I don't run into that inductive resistance problem. It was a pretty weird adventure, I have to tell you. And I did put in every single wire that the schematic called for, even though I could have eliminated a lot of stuff like 5 plays for a quarter. I'm probably never going to use 5 plays for a quarter, but I figured as long as I'm building it, I might as well build it right. Another weird thing about this game, getting into the playability of it, it's the only Gottlieb single player I've ever seen where the same player shoots again. Gottlieb would never make a single player game where you could win a free ball. It was just sacrilege. The whole basic thought of the game is to advance these lights all the way up to the top to this red light, and then your special's lit. You would hit the advances like this. And when you get to the second white one, you light this white target over here for extra ball, which is something you never saw anywhere on a Gottlieb single player. Hit it, and the same player shoots again. Then when you drain the ball, it kicks up over the switch. This relay disallows this switch, and then this trough switch right here dumps out the chutes again. That was kind of weird. I also put the flashing bumpers on. I know it's not factory, but I like to see bumpers flash when you hit them, like that. Another weird feature is there's 5 nipples along the top, the infamous Gottlieb twin star nipples. If you hit all 5 of them, they give you 5,000 each, plus the last one gives you 5 bonus advances, which brings you up considerably higher. And if you can do that 2 or 3 times, you get this all the way to special, which means a free game for shooting these holes. It also means that the bumpers are lit all the time for 1,000 points each. And on a game where you only need 90,000 for a game, all you really have to do is get it up to the top, get your ball around in there, and you can really rack up some big points. And there's my special right there. I'm going to hit it in there. This game is exceptionally loud because we've got it all opened up, and I put that bell in there. I played this game extensively after I built it. I would like to say it's a great game, but I think that's stretching it. It really is a good game, though. It's excellent to look at. It's excellent to play. Ugly Mike, you've played this game. What do you think?
Good game.
Good game.
Yeah.
Great game to look at. Curtis, do you have an opinion?
Well, I wanted to ask you, how long did it take you to put this game together?
Oh, time-wise, good question. Good question. This represents about 2 weeks out of my life, working 8 to 10 hours a day, and it also represents quite a few of my parts. I used up almost all my relays building this game. It was something, it was worth doing once. I don't know if I'd want to do it again. If somebody else tried it that isn't used to changing play fields, it might take even longer. And I'm sure I made some mistakes. But oh well, I've got it and you don't. Ha ha ha. I would like to say it was the only one until this one in Argentina showed up. So apparently they did build at least one of them and shipped it to Argentina.
And we're going to have Guido and Tony get down there and take care of the boy.
Yeah, we're going to go down there and take it back, because this is American stuff for Americans. We don't want no Australians having our stuff. But yeah, it's a neat game. There was also in the Gottlieb files, there was a picture of one. So apparently the factory assembled at least one. No one knows where they went. of the 75 spacewalks that they've made, I know where 2 are, and I've seen a 3rd one. So at least 3 of those exist out of 75. I've never seen this game before. Eventually I'm going to go ahead and paint the cabinet, put the original design back in now that we have a picture of it. I will have this game at the Herb Show featuring Tim doing all the work in July. I'll also be bringing it down to the Wild West Pinball Fest. So if you want to play it in person, it'll be at all those shows. I'm not going to drag it all the way to Chicago. Another problem with this game when I was building it is that the playfield had warped. While it was sitting, at some point, there was actually a 3 or 4 millimeter bend in the wood. It had actually physically warped, and what I did to get around that was to actually have to physically bolt through the rails that held it on and keep a constant tension on the playfield. And in order to get the bolts to sit flat on the runners down here, I had to countersink the nuts. So even, just doing something stupid like that, when I first put the playfield down, I figured out it wasn't going to lay flat. It means I had to spend 6 or 7 extra hours going back through and taking everything apart, bolting it through, making it flat, and making it fit again. There was many nights of cursing and big hammers. This is going to be a question I have for anybody out there that might remember this. This is a picture from the 1970 AMOA show in Chicago. It's a picture of an actual tennis ball gun. Now I saw this and took this picture, and I thought this was the coolest thing in the world. It actually, you can see it's got tennis balls mounted on the top, and it actually fires the tennis balls out that tube-like apparition. And it was good violence. If anybody remembers the tennis ball gun or has any information about who made that, I want to know. Drop me a line. That's our mystery question of this issue. Meanwhile, we're going to go over here. We got some more games to look at. We got 2 over here in the corner. Alvin G's World Tour. And this one's from 1992. That's a Jerry Armstrong game, and 3 people claim that they did the art on it. So I've listed all 3 of them. I don't know how many of these they built. I'm going to estimate around 2,000. This would also be the last production game for Alvin G and company. There was a couple in the pipelines, prototype games that didn't really get produced. The problem that Alvin G had selling pinballs was it wasn't that they made bad games. The problem was that they couldn't get any distributors to sell them because the evil Williams empire wouldn't let any of their distributors carry a second line, which is clearly an illegal restraint of trade. But don't get me started on Williams. These were good games. They were fairly well built. They had some imagination, some color to them. But you can build all the games you want if your distributors can't sell them, and if Williams already controls all the good distributors in every territory, you're just kind of plain out of luck. It's got something on it called a bump button, which is kind of weird. If you look down here underneath the playfield, it's got a coil, a little magnet coil that actually physically bumps back your flipper button. This is Alvin Gottlieb's device. It actually gives you some return feel. I never really liked it, but it's an interesting feature. If you look at all the gizmos, they look exactly like copies of Williams or Data East parts. That's because they use mostly the same suppliers. If you look at these bumpers down here, these are Wyco bumpers. The drop targets were made by Partech. They're just, a little bit of this and a little bit of that. It's pretty neat underneath. This one was assembled July 24th of 1991. It's got great sound on it.
Introducing Al the Live Band!
You get the cheering. You got this guitar feature here. You got the spinning CD disc. The ball can get stuck up on this grippy spinning disc and shoot these targets here for points. You get the 3 garage band members, each of which have their own bumpers. And if you get it up into here, I can't make the loop. You get it up into there. It goes through the guitar, which was pretty neat. It uses the evil black rubber that I don't like. I'm a purist. I like pinballs to have white rubber. It's got a great dot matrix on it. Kind of goes in time with the music. We got a skill shot. In all, it's a neat game. I picked this one up. When you get a bozo ball, it yells "free bird" and gives you the ball back. I picked this one up at the expo, used for $600. What's really kind of neat about it is the match feature is actually a takeoff on what was that movie, Spinal Tap, where the drummer kept blowing up all the time. If you look at the match feature here, he just keeps drumming and drumming, and then he blows up, which I thought was pretty cool. Ugly Mike, have you played this game much?
No, I have not.
He has no opinion on it. I'm going to call it a good
Haven't had
game.
it played it enough.
No, this one just came in. This one's only been up for about a month or so. I played it. I don't think it's a great game. There just isn't enough. The shots don't flow together. To me, a game like Taxi is a great game because all the shots work back towards your flippers, and then you can make another shot. This has got a bunch of great gimmicks. It looks great, but doesn't play great. So I'm going to say that it's only a good game, except for the fact that it's great to look at. It's very colorful. Got any opinions?
Can't give you one because, like you said, it's only been here a month, and I've only been near it a couple of times. But next tape, I'll have my opinion.
Okay, well, we'll get back to you on that one. We're going to get back into the Gottlieb stuff now. We got another one of those late single-player games. This one isn't quite from 1979. It's from March of 1978. This one's called Strange World. This one was actually produced. They made probably between 500 and 700 of them. I bought this one new from Cleveland Coin. I still have the receipt for it. This is number 142. It's a John Osborne game. Again, Eddie Krinsky was no longer the only designer at Gottlieb at that point. And you can tell it's not an Eddie Krinsky game because it's asymmetrical. The left half of the playfield is completely different than the right half. I really, really, really like the art on this game. Let me take this silly-ass sign off of here. I put these signs on the back glasses of my games when I took them over to the Herb show so that no one would go around with a camera and take a bunch of pictures and then publish a book without asking me or at least cutting me in for a couple free books. But this to me is a beautiful glass. It's psychedelic without being annoying. It's extremely colorful. And it's got the eyeball people. I can remember sitting in the office at Cleveland Coin. We were deciding between this game and a Stern Trident. And we ended up going with this game just for no other reason than the eyeball people. We thought the eyeball people were so incredibly cool. Shows you how scientific our approach to buying games was. I'm very glad we bought this one instead of the Trident. Trident is a dime a dozen. It was a terrible game. You can look at this one. I put a new playfield on it. Don Murphy in Chicago had some playfields left that he was blowing out for $50 each. So I bought a playfield, put it on. The cabinet looks like new. It's really a nice game. Again, just like all the other great Gottlieb single players, you have sequences of numbers that connect with colors. If you can get all of one color, you light the hole for special. And if you can get all of one column, if you can get all the ones, then all the ones light for 5,000. So if you're working the game this way, you get points. If you're working the game this way, you get specials. Now the thing about the special is it's only lit 1/3 of the time if you've only got one color group. It only lights on the third time for a free game. Oh, there's that sound. So if you can get all the numbers out, then you have the special lit all the time, and you have every target lit for 5,000. My only slight complaint with this game is the fact that it doesn't really have any direct shots. But if you can keep the ball in play and just lob it in this hole, it's free game city. This game actually made good money for us. Let me read the meter here. It's got 61,000 plays on it, and it's got 21,000 replays. So it's actually paid out quite a few free games. Right now it's set on 3-ball, and if you know anything about Gottlieb, you know that the 3-ball game is made easier than the 5-ball game by tying 2 features together. If you look, here's 1, 2, 3, and 4. If you hit the 3, it'll knock out the 2 and the 3. That way, instead of having 5 balls, you have an equal chance with 3 balls to get what you need to do. There's also something kind of sneaky about this game. If you look under here, there's a relay in here that doesn't quite look like it was there when the game came out of the factory. It doesn't have the same kind of wiring. It just kind of looks like it's sitting there. That's what we used to call in the arcade a whammy relay. Now what that does, if you're a pinball player, you're not going to like this. What that does is, let's say you walk up to a game and it's in game over mode. You're going to put a quarter in, and you're going to start your game. And then you're going to shoot your ball, and the ball's going to hit these bumpers here. And the bumpers, Curtis, what would you say those bumpers score?
10.
No. They're supposed to score 1,000. Something's not working right now, but if this game was working correctly, there we go. These would score 1,000 per hit. Let's see what it's doing here. This game, I haven't been into this game in a couple of years since I put the playfield on it. Anyways, let's say you get the ball bouncing around up in here and you're getting many thousands of points, and then you come up to the end of the game and you win because you had a lot of points. Then you start up your next game. What happens then?
Starts over.
The bumpers are no longer worth 1,000. They're now only worth 100. So what happened was you come up and put a quarter in. The quarter relay pulls in this whammy relay, and for the first game of a quarter, the game is incredibly easy. What that means is that you win a lot, but you can't really figure out why. What it does is it gives you some goodies, lets you win, and then takes the goodies back. A lot of people didn't like that feature. They thought it was dishonest, but somebody must have liked the game because it made a lot of money. It was a great game. I would have to say, based on the combination of the art and the easiness of lighting the specials on this game, I would have to say this is a great game. Ugly Mike, your opinion?
I consider it a good game, a real good game.
Okay, bordering on great.
Shy of great.
Shy of great, but the artwork is exceptional.
Yes.
She's upside down. She's got big red hooters. You got eyeball people. You got Jason and the Argonauts back here. Curtis, any opinion?
Artwork is very nice. I like
Artwork is very nice. Okay, we're going to be back in a minute with more games. Hey, we're back. We're going to do another weirdo game. But first off, time for me to beg for some more money. If you're watching this tape, send me $6. All I want to do is break even. I got to cover the postage and the cost of the tape. We're going to do Rat Race. Now, this is a weird game from 1983. There were less than 10 of these built. They brought them to the AMOA show in 1983, so I'd like to say that this date was probably later in 1983. I'm not sure who designed it. Mike Pasak has one, and Herb down in LA has this one. This is the only one that's surfaced that actually has the sound for it. What it is basically a tilting playfield. You use your control here to physically tilt the playfield back and forth. What you're trying to do is you're a rat in a maze, and what you're trying to do is get your ball through various targets. Now see, I just got the 1, there's the 2, there's the 3, the 4, the 5. Now I'm working my way back to 4. And not only do you have a number sequence, you've got different point scores. I lost. But yeah, it's a pretty neat game. You can see it's real colorful. It's got all these colorful plastics and stuff. They obviously went and spent a lot of money making this game, and then they just didn't produce it. I remember seeing it at the trade show and thinking, boy, that's cute. We should probably buy a couple of these. If they made it today, they'd probably put one of those damn ticket spitters on it. I'm going to have to say that for what this game is, which is a kiddie novelty game, It isn't really a pinball because it's got no flippers. I'm going to have to say for a kiddie novelty game, it actually is a great game. Again, I like colorful games. This one's nice and colorful. It's got a definite point to it. I mean, you try to get through the number sequence and the letter sequence and this inner loop sequence. It's got some neat features on it. About the only thing I'd like to complain about is the sound is a little primitive. It's sitting here farting at us. Ugly Mike, you've never played this one.
Have not played it, no.
This
a new
is
arrival.
Game. This is Herb's game, and when you have somebody else's game in your shed, you're supposed to write on it, Herb sucks.
Featuring Tim doing the work.
Yeah, featuring Tim doing all the work. Speaking of games that sound bad, we're going to go over here to Rack 'em Up. This is a Gottlieb game that sits here 24 hours a day and makes this farting noise at you. This is a weird machine. Gottlieb's Rack 'em Up from November of '83. We seem to be stuck on 1983 for some reason. It's game 685. I don't know who designed it, and the art is definitely not Gordon Morrison. I don't even know how many of them they built. I'm estimating around 1,500. Basically what you've got is the big flat Gottlieb back glass with the displays always in the same 4 places. They never move those around much. Got the fluorescent blue display tubes, and the glass kind of matches it. The glass is also blue, and the playfield is also blue. And if you look at it, you can see I've replaced the playfield. This is a new playfield. When I got the game, it was all completely down to the bare wood. It's a pretty interesting game. Let's start it up here. Oh, here's a trivia quiz for you, Ugly Mike. This is the last game that featured this coin door, that Gottlieb actually made this coin door themselves. The next game they came out with featured a coin controls door that they didn't make themselves. So this is the last of the big metal stainless steel coin doors. You start up the game, and it, of course, then and only then will it give you some music instead of that weird farting noise. Basically, it's like any other pool game. The idea is just to go around and pick up pool balls. The ball kind of enters the playfield through this one-way gate, which I always thought was kind of neat, to have the ball go zooming up there past that gate like that. You just hit numbers down, and you can use your flipper buttons to actually rotate which numbers you're going for, so it's like a lane change feature. You also have this mystery feature on this target here that changes around. You can add solids and stuff. And if you look at it, I didn't have the right yellow targets, so I decided, since I hate vegetarians, I decided to make it eat meat. It just seems to fit. And again, I put the flashing bumpers on here. I know some people find that obnoxious. It's a good game. I wouldn't say it's a great game. Basically, you just got to hit this spinner when it's lit for 10,000. That racks up a huge amount of points. It also rotates your number feature around so you can pick up different numbers. It's pretty much your run-of-the-mill, could have been late 60s mechanical pool theme game. Ugly Mike, I know you played this one at Fun Night.
Yeah, I enjoy target games, but as a target game goes, it's just average.
Just average.
Yeah.
I mean, it's more bright and colorful. I mean, it does have some nice geometric patterns on, so it's kind of good to look at.
Nice machine to look at, but not a great machine to play.
And it's got this weird psychedelic pattern on the side. If you stare at that long enough, don't leave it on for more than a couple seconds, because our viewers will be hypnotized. Yeah, whoa, he's freaking out. Yeah, I would say it's run-of-the-mill Gottlieb game. You begin to wonder why they would build a game like this when Williams was busy making Black Knight, which was a great game. I guess they just didn't have good designers or something. We're going over here now to another Alvin G game. This one's Pistol Poker. This one's from '93. I'm not sure who designed this one. I could probably find out, and I'd also kind of like to figure out if anybody out there knows who did the art for this. Drop me a line and tell me again. I'm going to estimate that they made about 1,500 of them. It's a 2-level game. Great sounds on it.
Howdy, partner.
The whole theme of the game, let me turn this damn thing down.
Yee-haw!
Yeehaw! You're playing poker. at this table with a bunch of degenerate scumbags in the Wild Wild West, and you have Miss Sally, who apparently couldn't afford like a whole top, so she got like some tablecloth and some string.
Well, let's get a real nice close-up of Miss Sally.
This is what they're spending all this money on alcohol and gambling, but they can't afford to buy Miss Sally some decent clothes.
Miss Sally doesn't need any.
No, I think she's doing perfectly fine as she is. But yeah, what you do is it's got your standard top thing here, where if you spell whatever you're supposed to spell up there, it gets you an additional bonus multiplier. It's got a flipper here on the upper playfield, but it doesn't have a flipper here. It would seem to me that this playfield screams out for a flipper right here that you could use to lob the ball that way. That's one of my main complaints with the game is the ball's here, you're constantly like hammering at this flipper saying, where is it? They do have a kicking rubber here, but a kicking rubber isn't as cool. Now, during the game, you can select, when you get it in that hole, you can select a card using your flipper button, and the idea is to complete this grid either in rows or in columns, and that gives you lots and lots of points and special features. That happens right there in that center hole. Now I want to get it down here to jacks. Excuse me. I did it wrong. Now I've got 2 jacks. So there actually is some strategy involved in picking out which cards you want. It's also got, you start out by hitting 1 pair, which is another feature down here on the main play field. You hit the jacks. Then you get to collect the hand by going up in the hole there. And then you go for, we'll take that one there.
Aim, fire.
That gives me 3 jacks. Now you get, collect your chip. You can select Mega Mode, which is basically your multi-ball. I mean, I could talk for half an hour and show you every little feature on this game. That's a pretty neat little game. It's got ramps. It's a real tall ramp. It's hard to get it up there. And the ramps don't really score that much. And if you look at the card here, it says 1 play for 500 lira. This game was all set to go to Italy when Alvin G closed up. And I got it brand new in the box for an amazingly low price. I won't say what, but on the last day the employees of Alvin G and Company could buy whatever was left for a ridiculously low price. I got into it through a friend of mine whose kid works there, or did work there. And this one was like the only one they had left of this game, and it was going to Italy, so I had to restrap the transformer for 110 volts because they got some weird voltage over there. Cabinet's real pretty. It's nice bright yellow. It says Pistol Poker on the side. I took it out of the box, set it up here. It's been sitting here ever since, so it's still pretty much like new. Ugly Mike, you were playing this one just a minute ago. What do you think?
Oh, I like it. I think it's a real great game to play.
I'm not going to say it's great. I'm going to say it's good.
Well, yeah, not a great game per se, but it's an enjoyable game to play.
Enjoyable. Good word for it. Curtis, you played this game.
It's, I would say a little above average. The sound is very nice. It's very colorful.
And there's strategy involved, rather than
There is
just...
strategy. You just don't like this rack 'em up game here. Oh, hey, we're back. Ugly Mike had to take off, but we got Curtis running the camera. We're going to go back, way back into time to Bally's Dixieland, October of 1967. This is one of the really weird Ted Zale games. Christian Marsh claims that he did the artwork for it. It was a very high production game for Bally at the time. 2,800 was exceptionally high for them. Another weird thing, if you've never seen a Bally game from this era, is the infamous flip top lid. Instead of sliding the glass out this way, the glass is mounted in a frame like this. You can either flip it up, or you can take it completely off the game like this. I always thought it was a pretty good idea. The only problem is the glass is smaller than a regular sized pinball glass, so you have to custom order your glass. If you look at it, it's got a bunch of weird-looking guys playing weird-looking instruments, and it's got a very asymmetrical play field. I know there's a bunch of bally nuts out there who are saying it's sacrilege. He's got the wrong caps on there. I've actually got some transparent Data East caps on there, but it looks so nice. The original caps were just plain white ones, and they really looked ugly. And because the lights are on all the time, the original white caps had turned yellow and were quite a bit burned. Also, if you look, when the bumper bumps, the light goes off, which in the dark really looks neat, having the 3 different colored bumpers like that. It's also got one of the famous Bally features on it, the infamous zipper flippers. If you'll get in close here, you can see that the flippers actually close up like that. There's a mechanism inside which actually pulls them shut and back open again. That way your ball can't go through the middle unless you're real stupid and hold one flipper up like that, and then you deserve to lose it. Zipper flippers were quite a neat feature. Also on this one, the flippers are orange, day-glow orange. Bally was kind of going through their hippie phase at that point, and they wanted a lot of day-glow colors. There was one other game from the 60s that had baby blue flippers. I have a special prize of a t-shirt if you can tell me the Bally game from the 60s that had baby blue flippers. To start out the ball, you shoot it up like this, and if you can hit the ball off this rebound where it says rebound, it'll double the value of that from 100 to 200. Then you go through and collect that. It's basically got 2 shots on it. You got what they call the clarinet hole up there, and that can vary in value from 10 all the way to 500. If you hit the ball in the clarinet hole when it's 500, something's not working. There we go. If you hit it when it's 500, it adds another letter to the word Dixieland in the back glass, and you can see I've spelled D-I-X. If you can get it all the way to Dixieland, you win 2 free games, which is adjustable. That's a neat feature because I always, as a kid, I like to come up to one of these games with a holdover feature, and if it was all the way around A or N, then I know that for a couple dimes I could win it big. And then what you do is you build the clarinet value back up to 500 and add another letter, and of course it's not working. Something screwed up. It's also got the street light feature, which is here, which is this little alleyway. When the street light is lit, this little maze here is worth 500 and 200 instead of 10 and 200. There's also a gate here that'll either give you the ball back, or if the gate's open, it'll actually take your ball away. That was always an aggravating feature because before you made the Basin Street street light shot, you had to make sure what position your gate was in. Also, you've got a free ball gate down here, and I can't reset it because the clarinet score is screwed up. Another weird thing about this game, if you look at the ball and play indicator back there, you can actually program the game for a 6th and even a 7th ball, so you can actually have a very long game. When I bought this game, we put it in the pizza parlor, and we put it on a nickel for 3 balls, and all the other games were a quarter for 5 balls. And it actually made quite a bit of money because people thought they were getting such a great deal by having 3 balls for a nickel. If you look at the door, it's got the original nickel, dime, quarter door on it, and unfortunately now it wouldn't be much good to have a game that would actually play on nickels and dimes because you can't pay the rent on nickels and dimes. So what I've done on this one, if you look down inside here, you'll see that I've actually mounted a Bally score dial. You probably have to get up and over to see it. Right in there. Right in there. I've actually got a score dial that's hooked up to the nickel and dime chutes, so if you put a nickel in like that, it'll physically advance 1, and every 5th position gives you the start of a game. So if you put in a nickel, 2 nickels, 3 nickels, and then a dime, which is worth 2, then the game starts. That way, if you happen to have some loose change in your pocket, other than a quarter, you can still play the game if you've got 25 cents worth of nickels or dimes. I just hated to wreck that door because that door looks so nice like that. Here's a shot of your flipper zipper mechanism here. You can see that it goes in and out, and it's latched on this little latch here. One of the problems with the flipper zipper mechanism is it's constantly flexing these wires here back and forth. You get quite a few broken flipper wires on this game. In all, I would have to say that this is a great game. I really enjoyed it, but then again, I grew up with it as one of my first games. I've got a sentimental soft spot in my heart for it. Curtis, what do you think?
Thought it played very nicely. Gave you something to shoot at.
Yeah, it's pretty. I mean, it's not dark and depressing. I hate dark and depressing games, which is what we're going over here to next. Curtis turned off the camera there by accident. This is going to be it as far as looking at pinballs for this tape. What we're going to do is we got some video that Dave DeSafe from Cecil, Pennsylvania sent to me and said to put it on this next tape. What it is a beer commercial from the late 50s. It features a Gottlieb double action pinball, and apparently the advertising agency took this pinball, made a new back glass for it, but I can tell based on the playfield that it is in fact a Gottlieb double action. And another thing that they changed was that the original double action didn't go all the way to the floor in the back like you're going to see in the commercial. And then after that he included a brief little thing that was on KDKA TV Channel 2 in Philadelphia. And quick trivia note, KDKA radio was the first licensed radio station in America. So this is a thing that they did on him and his pinball collection. And if anybody out there has any video that they want to have included in one of these tapes, just send it along with your $6 and I'll throw it on the next tape. And then we're going to run out of space on this tape. I'm going to show you a Bugs Bunny cartoon, and this is kind of to take up the slack in the end of the tape. And I'm going to dedicate it to Sega Pinball and their NBA Space Jam pinball, which I found disgusting and rude, because when I was growing up, Bugs Bunny wasn't this gotta sell a Happy Meal merchandising gimmick. I mean, you can come to Vegas here and they actually got a Warner Brothers store where they can sell Warner Brothers Bugs Bunny vitamins and prophylactics and all that crap. When I was growing up, Bugs Bunny was just this kind of fun thing you used to see when you came home from school. And the best thing about Bugs Bunny was he never was stuck in a specific role. I mean, in one cartoon he could be the good guy, and the next one he could be the bad guy, and now everybody's got their little defined place in the universe, and they even have things like Honey Bunny. Who the hell is Honey Bunny? And all these new characters. I just don't like the new Bugs Bunny, so I'm going to throw in this cartoon and dedicate it to all the people at Chicago Coin, Stern Data East, and Sega! And here's for one for your new Japanese masters. I'll be back on the next tape. Thanks.
Tasted ham.
Let me have a shaker, Johnny. Sure. Hey, you got a new pinball machine.
Yeah.
Hey, what do you know? It plays music. Hey, that's quite a machine. How do they get the music in there? Beats me. Folks,
Follow the bouncing ball all the way back to the 60s. It was the era of the pinball arcade.
Super Score from '67. There's a roulette wheel in it. As you go, you score points on the roulette wheel.
Dave DeSafe's entire garage is a pinball arcade.
Kings and Queens, almost a celebrity. This is the one that Tommy played in the movie, which ironically was made in '75, but they used a '65 pinball for it. And here we have a party in a building in New York City, and up in the elevator comes crashing in as a hobo and his girlfriend.
The pinball junkie of Cecil flipped over the game back when he was a junior high school student in Canonsburg. He spent countless hours plugging nickels into a game called the Mayfair. Now he owns it and plays for free. Second childhood? He never really left his first.
I thought if I would get one game, that I would be happy. And then there was 2, and then 3, and now I'm up to 18.
He never gets tired of watching the Bronco kick the cowboy, and neither does his daughter, Dana.
Get that ball. That's it.
Dana hasn't quite grasped the concept that the game is controlled by the flippers and not by trying to grab the ball through the glass.
You're supposed to press the flippers.
Dave DeSafi is a psychiatric nurse at Allegheny General, but for his own personal therapy, nothing matches the thrill of rescuing old pinball machines from the junk heap and restoring them to the luster of his childhood.
I just go back to a happier time in my life, and I remember the fun that we had with these games, playing for hours and hours, and I capture a piece of that every time I play.
He's not the only one.
Nothing against video games, but you just can't beat the old-fashioned pinball machine. You get all those bells and whistles to listen to. And the object of the game isn't to pummel your video kickboxing opponent into submission or obliterate somebody else's galaxy. On the other hand, this is the reason I got such lousy grades in college. Racking up the points and hoping not to tilt in KD country, I'm Dave Crawley.